Hello everyone, this is Mike from Grace Church Manchester. Last Sunday during our live stream service we introduced an opportunity for people to write in with questions that they might have either about connecting with the church or things that were raised during the sermon, and we introduced an email address, ask@gracechurchmanchester.net, and I'm really pleased to say that somebody's written in with a very thoughtful question. So what we thought we'd do going forward is, if we have questions, we release a brief video during the week to give some initial responses and hopefully to keep a conversation going. So here's the question. It's actually quite long and I'm going to just summarize it to give the gist of it and then give some thoughts. The question is this: what grounds for hope does Matthew chapter 6 give us in the worst case scenario? And the person then talks about the pandemic, about the change that's going on around the world, economic crises and so on, and says it's conceivable there could be a societal collapse or great problems. And actually also adds that quite apart from the pandemic, there are parts of the world where famine is common, people starve, people, including Christians, struggle to provide for their families. What grounds for hope does Matthew 6 give us in the worst case scenario? Very thoughtful, very good question. I want to give some initial responses. The first is a principle. So when reading the Bible, we should always try and figure out what the main point of the text is before we bring our own questions and concerns to it. In this case, in Matthew 6:25 and following, Jesus isn't actually directly addressing worst case scenarios. He's making a primary point, which is this: followers of Jesus should not worry because they can trust their Heavenly Father. Now, that's his main point. Does that have some connection to worst case scenarios? It does, but let me focus on the main point first. Jesus wants his followers to be people who don't worry about the basic necessities of life, but they trust God. Now, he doesn't mean by that Christians should be careless or irresponsible or not bother to work or provide, nor does he mean that actually as soon as a person becomes a Christian, they're given some sort of immunity from the struggles and suffering of life that other people have. We know that isn't the case. From experience, we also read throughout the Bible that believers, sincere believers who trust and love God, struggle and suffer just as much as other people, and in fact sometimes more so. So again, what does Jesus mean? He means that we shouldn't worry about life because we can trust God absolutely. And in order to drive his point home, Jesus gives two examples, the birds and the flowers. And here he's using what scholars call an a fortiori argument. And this kind of argument works like this: if this is the case, then how much more that? So the examples are, if God feeds the birds of the air, then how much more can you trust him to provide for your needs? If God clothes the flowers of the field, then how much more can you trust God to clothe you? And the big point for Christians is this: if you know the God of the Bible as your Heavenly Father, then you know the one who is the creator of the entire universe. You know that he sustains it and governs it actively from moment to moment. And you know that he's a God of love. This God provides food for the birds, clothing for the flowers. And if he's that concerned about them, then will he not be even more concerned to care for us as his children? And if we believe that, it will create real trust in God and change the way we live so that we're not people full of worry. Therefore, we can trust God. Now, how does that connect with the worst case scenarios? It connects, I think, daily in the sense that Christians should be people who thank God and trust God for their daily needs. Secondly, it means that Christians should be people who, even in extreme situations, know that God is in control even when they can't see it. And thirdly, Christians have an ultimate trust in God that in the end, he will make all things new and all will be well. And we have the guarantee of Jesus Christ for that. Hope that's helpful, and see you Sunday.